Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Kirsten, and together with my sister, Lynn, we created the Anti-Racist Table, which is a multidimensional platform aimed at helping people to bring anti-racism into life as a daily practice. We do this in large part with our free self-paced 30-day challenge, which is foundational anti-racist educational work. It goes through history, lesser known facts that sort of build a foundation and a common knowledge base. From there, we take people through the emotionality that's related to doing this work. We help people figure out what it looks like to be an ally and how to bring anti-racism into their life. We include readings, we have videos, we have podcasts, we have art, we have music, we have meditation, we have reflection, we have journaling. It really is a very deep, in-depth program. And we're very excited. We just upgraded our platform to make it very easy to self-pace. We have people doing this solo. We have people doing it in community. It provides a wonderful framework for anyone who really wants to dig in and get serious about anti-racism. A lot of people are reading books, which is great. Obviously, we're here about books today. But in terms of really dismantling anti-Blackness and making a real change, we need action. And our challenge really helps people do that. This is something Lynn and I created because we, like many Americans, have had enough of the way things are in this country, and we wanted to do something to help make a difference. So if you haven't heard of us before, please check out our website. It's free, and we have a community space. It's all about a community of care. Share it with your friend, with your colleague. If you have any questions, you can email us, hit us up on the platform. So with that, thank you so much for being here. I'm going to turn this over to Lynn, who is going to do our land acknowledgement.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us this evening. As we work to repair the relationships with Indigenous people, we would like to begin by offering a land acknowledgement of the land that we occupy. So this particular land acknowledgement that we use is inspired by Ruth King, who's an African-American mindfulness practitioner, and she inspires us every day. So I'd like to call on my ancestors to stand with me as I acknowledge the Native custodians of this land, Washington, D.C. That is the Anacostan land and the Piscataway people. Those people that are named, unnamed, known, unknown, past and present. We honor all traditions and traditional custodians of this region. We recognize their continued connection to this land, to this water, and to this community. We pay respect to the earth, whose generous resources sustain us every day. And we pay respect to the enslaved African people of this land who were brought, held, and sold here, and all of their descendants, and all of the people throughout the world that are living in captivity. We pay respect to their spiritual labor. And we pay respect to our ancestors whose unwise relationship to race and racism we have all inherited. We pay respect to our teachers, elders, past, present, and emerging, and to all of the young people today that are teaching us. We honor this gathering and all of the people here for taking time to be with us, and especially our guest, Beverly Jenkins. Thank you so much. We recognize that we all share an aspiration for liberation, to be free in heart, mind, and body. Ashe, here ends our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Lynn. And with that, I am going to introduce our esteemed guest. Miss Beverly Jenkins is the nation's premier writer of African-American historical romance fiction and specializes in 19th century African-American life. She is the 2018 Michigan Library Association Author of the Year, a USA Today bestselling author, an NAACP Image Award nominee, and the 2017 recipient of Romance Writers of America's Nora Roberts Lifetime Achievement Award. She has over 49 published works and has been named to many Best Book of the Year lists, including NPR and the American Library Association. She speaks widely on romance, writing, and African American history. Her books were recently optioned for film by Sony Pictures and Roker Entertainment. And with that, we are so excited, so honored to have the queen, the one and only Miss Beverly Jenkins. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. Let me acknowledge my land here. Detroit and the area around it is Anishinaabe land, which is the Council of the Three Fires. Ojibwe, Ottawa, Potawatomi. We also acknowledge the Chippewa, the Huron, and the Wyandot. So thanks for having me here.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. You know, we just want to start with, just start from, tell us a little bit about your journey, how you became a writer, how did you get here?
Well, I know that many people who have followed me all over the country, I've been everywhere from Oregon to Florida in the last, 35 days or so. So, so many people know that I had no intentions of being a writer. All I ever wanted to do was work in a library. Books were my thing. I sort of stumbled into this. I had a girlfriend who read what would eventually be Night Song when I was working at Pfizer in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and was working in their library. And she encouraged me to get it published. I told her that she's responsible for this, and my mother who bought me cloth books when I was a baby, and of course I was too young to read them, so I would eat the pages. She would say, "Eat those words, baby. Eat those words, baby." So I had to do something with all those words I'd eaten. And Laverne, my girlfriend at work, encouraged me to get it published. And eventually I found an agent, Miss Vivian Stevens, who, when working for Dell Books, was the first African-American editor over there to publish Elsie Washington, who published the first modern day romance in 1980. Vivian was her editor. And then when Vivian moved to Harlequin, she published Sandra Kitt, who was the first African-American contemporary writer over there. So she had gotten out of publishing, and she had a small literary agency. And I sent her my little raggedy manuscript, and I don't know how I found her. I have no idea. The universe sometimes works in mysterious ways. And she called me at work and said she wanted to represent me. So this was like 92 maybe. So on June 3rd, 1993, which was my late husband's birthday, got a call from Ellen Edwards, who was the executive editor at Avon Books, not the makeup people, the publishing company. Because people say, they do makeup and books? No. Two separate entities. So
I would have said that.
yeah, separate. So the first book, Night Song, came out in July, I think, of 1994. And so now 27 years later, I guess, here I am.
Wow.
And proud to be a romance writer, because it's an awesome thing to be.
Yeah, and what led you to the historical part of it, the historical romance?
Well, it was the first thing that sold, first of all. I had done a contemporary, probably 85, 86. and it was so bad. Oh my God, that manuscript was awful. I tell people that when I mailed it, the reject letter almost beat me home from the post office. It was that bad. But I was working on it just for me because, like I said, I wasn't trying to be published. So this was a love story that I was working on just for me, which turned out to be nice. So, Buffalo Soldier, Oberlin educated school teacher, because Oberlin was one of the few places where you could continue your education if you were a person of color in the United States. And so, and I like to say that, and I've said this 1,000 times too, my mom was Black before it was fashionable. So I grew up with African-American history in my home. She was born in 28 in Detroit. We just lost her last April. So, she was very, very conscious and very, very pro Black history. So it didn't make sense for me to write a story about somebody who didn't look like me. New York Times back in December published an article that looked at the data of who had been published in this country. And out of all of the books, fiction, has been published in the United States since 1950, which would be 1 year before I was born. Only 5% of those books were written by people of color. So, I mean, you look at the millions and thousands upon thousands of books in the 72 years or whatever, 71 years. So, it didn't make sense for me to write a book about me and those who look like me and set it against a majority background, knowing how deep and how expansive and how wide our history in this country is. So that's what I did, and created, I guess, a niche for myself, because I was out here by myself for quite some time. I'm not out here by myself anymore, which is a wonderful thing. So now I'm here talking to you two.
Yeah, we are very excited. Can you tell us a little about some of the challenges you had to face being, one of the first?
Well, the first challenge was getting it published.
Blazing the trail.
Yeah, because I mean, back then and even now, a 19th century story about Black people, New York, and most of the people in the country see only slavery in those stories. If it's a 19th century story, it should be about slaves. So here I come with a 19th century story about a Buffalo Soldier, free Black people living, on the plains of Kansas in an all Black town. And New York was like, what?
Right.
Wait, wow.
Is this real? Did this really happen?
What are we going to do with this? I got, like a gazillion rejection letters, being a first time author. I mean, you get that. But, they kept saying great story, but. And that but had to do with, they didn't have a box for it.
Right. They wanted the slave story.
Yeah, they had no idea what to do with it. But luckily, Ellen Edwards saw the beauty in the story, and she did make me write a story though, because when I turned that manuscript in, I had 700 pages of heat.
700 pages.
She was like, well, Bev, we love your writing. We love the love scenes. We need a story. And I was like, damn, I gotta write a story today? Yeah, you gotta write a story. So like I said, it didn't make sense to put these people against a majority background, knowing, what I knew about our history. So I set it against the Great Exodus of 1879, which is not to be confused with the Great Exodus of 1900. Two different movements. 79 was the first mass migration of African Americans out of the South after the gutting of Reconstruction. And Black people were trying to get away from, the racism and the rise of the Klan and all the lynchings and the death and the destruction that was being wielded against them. And so they were like, we're out of here. And the country sort of had a fit. They had congressional hearings and, after the Civil War, Black people were forced into these work contracts, which were little more than slavery, sharecropping and all that. And so the planters, the people who had caused the war in the first place, Congress gave them back their toys and their land and all of that. And so they were forcing Black people into these, like I said, awful work contracts. I mean, even little kids, 8-year-olds. Well, she signed the paper. She can't even read,
Yeah, exactly.
So Black folks was like, okay, we out of here. These people, the planters, they were lined up against, along the Mississippi, armed to keep, the workforce, because they weren't paying you anything,
Right.
to keep them from leaving. Even Frederick Douglass and some of the quote unquote leaders were against this movement. This was their constituency leaving. Politicians will do politics. So, and I always like to reference, there was a letter in the Colored American, which was one of the big newspapers, Black newspapers back then. And this guy wrote to the editor and said, Frederick Douglass don't represent nobody but Frederick Douglass. My family are moving to Kansas, So they went to Kansas and they went to Nebraska and Iowa. And in fact, I'll be speaking at a recently opened Black bookstore in Iowa on Saturday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she's been open since the 5th of September, I think.
So
So they moved to Iowa, Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, California. So the first mass movement out of the South, and then the Great Migration came, 21 years later, for folks going north to places like Chicago and Detroit and Pennsylvania and all that. So I set the story against that, and publishing didn't know what to do with it because they didn't know anything about the Exodus. But I put the sources and the citations that I use in the backs of the books to answer the questions of, did Black people really do this? Did Black people, really, really do this? Yes. Here's the sites. Go look it up and then come back and talk to me, So
yeah, I love it.
That's sort of how I began.
And I just love how you have like such strong, heroines. Like the Black women are just so powerful. On International Women's Day, I feel like this is the perfect time for you to be here, to be talking about these strong, Black women and, mixed women, and just, even just breaking down all these stereotypes.
Yeah. I posted last night on Twitter. I've been doing my own little Black Women's History Month all month. And I posted last night a book titled "We Are Your Sisters, Black Women of the 19th Century" by Dorothy Sterling. And it was basically, my Bible Bible with a little B, when I started this career. And one of the things that she says is that basically Black women had 3 gifts in the 19th century that helped them become very successful after the Civil War, because Black women and Black men after Reconstruction were able to carve out their own spots a lot. And those 3 gifts were, we worked, Black women, we worked, whether we were enslaved or whether we were free in the North, we worked. The second gift was the commitment to community and social activism. We marched, we chased slave catchers, we snatched people out of courtrooms who were, on trial. This is Black women. In the Colored American, another, their editorial was like to Black men, well, you keep your women at home. Out here showing up and showing out.
Exactly.
And
taking care of business.
hey, somebody got to do it. We're going to wait on the country to do it. We couldn't even have them uphold the Constitution. So, it was either, we had to do that, and Black men too. So we worked the commitment to community and social activism. And the third gift was our tendency to push the envelope on gender and race. Some of the first doctors in this country were Black women. Mary Shadd, who was born out of an abolitionist family in Philadelphia, I think it's Philadelphia, founded the first newspaper by a woman on the North America continent with her newspaper in Canada. And she had to sign her editorials to Brother Shadd because she didn't think that the men would take her seriously. And she was right. Once they found out that, it was her, they started attacking her and all that. But so those three things, those three gifts, when I'm doing my heroines, I try to give them at least one. Some of them have all three. Hester had all three from Indigo. Kate from Topaz had all three because she was a newspaper reporter. And some only have one, but they all do what we do best, which is survive, and take care of the families and take care of themselves and walk in tandem with their men. So I'm really proud of what I write, and my readers have embraced the stories, with just an amazing joy. So yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I mean, I got my pile I'm reading right now. I'm working through all of these. Ooh, they're just so beautiful. The illustrations on the cover. I mean, just to see that Black love, to see you don't see that very often. I mean, forget Bridgerton. We need to get these right on into the movies. I mean, look at this through the storm. I mean, I just want to eat these books up.
Yeah.
You can't put it down once you get started.
Yeah. I'm very proud of what I write, and very proud to be embraced by my readers. I think I'm connected through my readers. I'm connected to every Black woman in this country. Somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who reads my books. So if I ever need anything, I just throw up my hand, and eventually somebody will say, well, Miss Bev, do so-and-so, or call so-and-so, or things. So, and it's kind of awesome too, that women who are not of color have embraced these books as well. So, publishing sometimes thinks that, only Black women are reading these books because only Black people read books by Black people. And, and they are proving that to be untrue. So I'm very, very happy to welcome them to my table.
Yeah, that's great that you're seeing that, because we had Alexa Martin on a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, and she was saying that a lot of the readers, the white readers were having a hard time connecting with her characters, but then we were saying, well, she said, what was it, Kirsten, that they were connecting with the werewolf stories?
Right, like sometimes people will say they can't connect with the Black.
That was my thing.
But they're reading werewolves. They're reading about werewolves.
They can connect with the werewolf.
Yeah, they can connect with shapeshifters, werewolves, vampires, but they can't connect with Black people. I said that in a speech, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, and it's like, okay, I got a problem with that.
Yeah,
I got a real problem with that. But
you are seeing that your books are creating that door and window option so that people can.
And not just me, a lot of people are embracing Vanessa Riley's books, and Alyssa and Rebecca Weatherspoon and Piper Hughley. I mean, there's a lot of women out there who are getting maybe not as much crossover as we would like, but a lot of people are making that effort. And then you got people who, it doesn't matter what you write, they're not going to read it.
Right.
So, you don't even worry about them. You don't worry about the people who love a good story and
Yeah.
and what
I mean,
about
you weave such beautiful tales. I mean, the language that you use, you just, I can just have this inner picture of exactly what's happening. It's so beautiful. Yeah, the way
I
that you
hear
describe it.
they tell me I write,
artistically.
yeah, they tell me I write very visually.
Yeah, very visually.
I can see it in my head, when
Mhm.
I'm writing. So, but we all bring, we all write differently,
Oh
so
yeah, and those steamy scenes, man,
yeah.
you got some good ones in there.
Well, it's part and parcel of the story, but if you do it in a way that is not gratuitous,
Mhm.
it flows right with the story. So,
Definitely.
I really love getting back to it's sort of like the cover, but it's also in the stories that there's always this tenderness and between your male and your female protagonist that I find so endearing because it's, again, we just don't see that image of Black love. And it's, we'll have your male protagonist just tender and caring, holding up a Black woman, and just seeing that is so just, we just don't see that.
no, we don't. They would much rather focus on our pain, and that's what America believes that and it was one of the battles in the beginning. My girlfriend Brenda Jackson talks about having conversations with editors, and I didn't have to do that because I've had editors of color, so I'm fine. But some of the editors didn't believe that there was anything called Black love. They couldn't imagine the Black man or a man of color bringing his wife flowers for Valentine's Day, or and I always tell people my husband was my lover and my husband. So you got that tenderness, but they would much rather, because in a lot of their eyes, we don't have humanity. There's no humanity. So if there's no humanity, there can be no love. But tell that to the Black men after the Civil War who spent months walking across the South, plantation to plantation to plantation, looking for their wives who'd been sold away. I mean, that's Black love right there. And and the first African American historical romance was written by Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, who was a staunch abolitionist, feminist, if we can use that word. I'm not a big fan of that word, because of all of the madness that it is tied to.
Yeah.
She was an abolitionist. She would, her iconic poem, "Bury Me in a Free Land," was, recited all over the country. But she wrote the first African American historical romance, Iola Leroy, in 1892. She was 67 years old when she wrote that book.
Oh my goodness! Wow, I need to write that down.
Yeah, I mean,
can you put her name in the chat so we can look
yeah,
that up? I'm gonna look in the Library of Congress for that.
Yeah, and it's in print. It's being taught in a lot of, romance is now being taught in universities. So, but that's the foundation. But that and it had an HEA. So it's on her shoulders.
Yeah.
I stand. She's our foundation. So, romance been around for, Black romance been around for a while. But you got, and then you have the Black women that we had to, twist their arms in order to read romance. I remember, being with a group of Black women early in my career who were, there's not that much of it going on these days. It's still out there, but who were like, I said, what? Just because you're Black, you don't think you deserve love? And that sort of cut off the conversation on that. But we need to be represented in all of the genres.
Yeah.
It's not our life. We need more Black joy. We know our history. We know the pain. I mean, all we have to do is look around.
Exactly.
But there's joy also in our lives, because if there was no joy, we wouldn't be here.
No.
The ancestors was able to carve out that joy no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
They needed that joy to keep going, to balance the crap,
Yeah.
the lemons that the government has been giving us since day one. So, um, so I'm very, very proud to be a romance writer, because we get to love too. Everybody gets to love. All identities is one of the great things about romance right now is, it's every identity, gets their HEA.
So that's a question. Have you thought about doing any kind of like gender neutral stories or anything like that?
No, because I want to feed that Black man, Black woman story.
Yeah.
I want to feed that. And I don't know enough about the gender neutral community to be able to do it well.
Yeah.
And if I can't do it well, then I'm not going to do it, because I won't mess up people's stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm so busy trying to clean up the mess that people have done to our history. I don't have time to, clean up anybody else's. I'm working on mine. So,
That's true.
but I applaud all of those different identities that are out there seeking and showing and writing and publishing, their HEAs.
I love how you have, the African culture, Sable, Sable, how she comes from African Queens, and you have that, there's just, you have that interwoven, and then you also have Native American culture and traditions and remedies, and what surprised, I don't know why this surprised me, but in Wild Rain, when there's misinformation about the Native people back in DC.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know why that it shouldn't have surprised me, but it made sense. It fits with this whole thing they've got going on.
Yeah. Not only was misinformation about Black people, there's lots of lots of misinformation about the Native culture. So of course, regardless of whether the people are Black or white, if they're coming west, they're bringing that misinformation with them, because that's all they know. The guy who Spring wanted to cut his heart out, was just parroting what he'd heard. And she was like, no, not on my watch. You're not doing that. So, you try and be respectful. Somebody wanted me to do a Native book, and and I don't know enough about the roots in order to do it correctly. So I'm not going to add my mistakes to all the mistakes that are out there. You do have a small group of Native women and men who are bringing their stories forward. But I did use a little bit of that in Nighthawk.
Yeah.
Because I went to Nebraska, Omaha, to do a signing. I don't remember when it was, 27 years, everything sort of running together. But at the signing, a young woman came up to me and she got real teary because she's Native and Black, and said that, thanked me for my stories. She said, because no one was writing for her. Her name was Maggie.
Wow.
So when I did Nighthawk,
Mm-hmm.
I gave her her name. So
that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You try and pay respect, in the ways that you can. But I know that, I don't have enough history or whatever to do a native male, native female story. So I will leave that to that voice that is of that culture.
But yeah, it's just so beautiful how deep you go with your characters, that you really like, you know, give them such a rich story. You know, they're just so layered, and they're connected to, you know, their history, they're connected to their roots and their family, and how they're in there. Some of them are even like interconnected with others in the books. But how did you come up with this like pirate with the
Well, you know, 30% of pirates
Mhm.
men of color.
30% of
30%.
I know
Yeah,
that.
I mean, you know that, you know, a lot of the pirate ships had escaped slaves on them. You know, men of color, all, you know, backgrounds. And then, and I'd always wanted to do a pirate. So I just took and then as I'm writing it, you know, that the universe is so funny sometimes. As I was writing it, National Geographic had a special on the Widow, which was a pirate ship, sailing out of the East Coast. And a lot of the men on that ship were men of color. The guy, and I, you know, I'd have to go back and look at the, you know, names and all that escape me right now. You just to look it up. The guy who was the captain was in love with this woman, and he didn't have any money at all. So his thing was he was going to go out and he was going to be a pirate. He was going to come back and he was going to have all this money and he's going to marry his boo, right? So he was really successful. I mean, they were kicking butt. And then as he was on his way home, ran into a hurricane.
Oh, geez.
And the ship was sunk. And he never made, you know, the connection with this lady. One of the black men, was a black man and a native man that survived. The black man was sold back into slavery. I think the native man managed to escape. But as I'm writing the story, they found the ship in the 20th century and brought the ship up, and it toured the country, and it had all this great stuff on it, stuff that you can use in a book, right? You know, what the look like, and you know, the ammunition and the bombs and all of that. So I just wrote everything down, and that went with the article that they had published, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago about the widow. So it's all based on fact. I don't have to make this stuff up. You know, it's all there. Just have to find it.
Yeah, well, that's amazing.
Well, captured is so audacious in that I love the, you know, you have basically it's basically the Maroons, you know, and I just love that badassness of Dominique, you know, everything that he did. And then Claire, I just felt that this is the first, I want to say, a romance book that had me in tears, because I felt, there's this quote that I wrote: captivity had deprived her of so much. She had never slept in a bed, taken a bath, or been shown the tenderness and care she deserved for simply being alive. And we are descended from enslaved people, and it's you know, it's hard to wrap your mind around what their existence had to have been like. And in that book, you so beautifully capture, you know, I felt like I had an image of, you know, to be deprived. Like there's a time when it's almost like she had never seen the sunset, I remember you saying.
Yeah.
And just like imagining what your life would be like when you're working from sun up to sundown, and somebody's beating you and doing all these things to you, and you know, you have no control over your own of anything. And it just really really spoke to me in such a powerful way. And I felt like people cannot read this and not see the humanity and see the inhumanity of the institution of slavery.
And what really moved me about, and I'm a pantser, so I don't plot very much. I let the story move organically. And what struck me, you talk about the sunsets, when she goes back and that first day, and she's working so hard, and the day passes and she realizes that, for the first time she's missed the sunset, but she just goes on. And a lot of people don't know about, the urban slaves, the slaves that lived in cities that served homes. I have a travel group. I travel with a group of women. We do every 2 years, and we do history trips. We party with a purpose. There's like 50 of us now.
Can we go? Can we go?
You got to form your own group. I keep telling people, form your own group.
No, we want to go with you, Miss Bev.
Don't let any crazy people in. But one of the places that we have visited a couple times is a house in Savannah, and I can't think of the name of it right now, but they have a whole, one of the things that it's known for is the tour it gives of the slave quarters. And it's in the basement, it's underground. And, it's things there, the washing stuff and the irons and where they slept. But it's devoted to the urban slaves, which is what Claire was. So, yeah, she slept on a cot all her life and slept at the foot of a crazy woman's bed. But yeah,
and her kids, her kids were owned someplace else.
Yeah, Sunday you could, in some places on Sunday, go and see your relatives. And she walked, she spent that whole day walking out there and then walking back to see children. But yeah, it was a hard life, and one of the things that moved me when I gave my acceptance speech at RWA for the Nora Roberts Award was, I started out talking about, my ancestors, the first group of people that we found, was on the 1870 census, which is the first census where Black people actually were given names. And they couldn't read. They had a box on the census form. Can you read? And neither one of them could read. And so here I am, 4 generations later, 5 generations later, being awarded for being an award-winning author. And I cried. I had the whole place crying. It was like,
I bet.
One of my superpowers is making ballrooms weep, but it really says something to me that, and how far we've come as a race, and and the country has come far in many ways, but in many ways we're still in, this is still Reconstruction. This is still Reconstruction. So.
Well, and just getting back to that whole idea of the urban enslaved person, we always forget, we live, right outside of Georgetown, and, they have all those cute carriage houses, and like, no, those weren't anybody's cute carriage house. They had a chimney. Somebody was in there cooking for the big house. Somebody was living in there.
Yeah.
That was not anybody's, cute carriage house.
The Jesuits owned slaves.
Yeah.
Episcopalians owned slaves. The Baptists owned slaves. So
was the foundation of this country, for sure. But I love how the thing about your books is that you have the spectrum of Black women, of Black men, from honey to mahogany to ebony. I love that. I love that, you've got the Creole story, colorism, passing, we've got these strong Black men who love their mother.
Mhm.
We have it with the Levesques, with the Yates.
I
I
love
love
You know,
the,
it's
I
just,
know, that is
it's such a saga.
I love that.
I love it. She's like, come here, baby, give me a kiss.
Yeah.
I love
Yes.
that. He's like, okay, mama, I love that.
Do you have a favorite? Do you have a favorite? I mean, I know that's hard. It's almost like
It is.
moms don't have a favorite.
Right, yeah. I love them all. I love them all. But the Levesques, the readers, the readers love the Levesques. They love the Yates. They love Galen.
Oh yeah.
But you were talking about
And the Graysons.
Yeah, and the Graysons too. But when I toured with Indigo, and I've said this before, everywhere I went, there were Black women crying.
Yeah, I
Because
haven't read Indigo, but Kirsten was telling me a little bit about Indigo, and I was almost in tears just with the 2 minutes that she told me about how she had gotten her hands dyed with the indigo plant, and
yeah, and she was dark skinned. She was dark skinned woman.
Yeah.
And that was for many the first time they'd seen themselves in a love story. And that had women weeping all over the country.
Yeah.
They're crying, I'm crying, everybody crying.
that is, that's so healing.
Yeah.
It just shows the power and how important it is that we
representation matters.
Yeah, it really
it
does.
so matters. But I'm having a good time.
We are too. We got a bunch of questions in the
Okay,
chat. Comments in the chat. We need to get with our viewers here.
Go ahead.
Enjoy talking to you. And
all right, let's see.
You can be here till Tuesday with me talking.
Okay.
I never met a microphone I did not like. So
which is interesting because I feel like sometimes writers could be kind of introverted.
Some of them are, but I'm not one of them.
You're not one of them. Okay. So Byron says, I absolutely love your books. I was wondering, what do you think is a major issue in the literary romance world right now? What would you like to see from the romance genre in the future?
I would like to continue to see the expansion of all the identities because it's so important. That's probably my top thing right now. I mean, there's always something going on, and we call it Romance Landia, romance on Twitter. There's always something going on, but for me, that's the thing. And whether they're traditional or whether they're independently published, that we continue to embrace everyone's HEA.
Beautiful. Meryl asks, pregnancy themes. In historical romance, do the stories tell of how women practiced avoiding pregnancy, herbs before drugs? I'm thinking of the courtesans who practice it. Well, some of your people have a sponge.
Yeah, sponges were big. Sponges, and then there was I can't think of the name of it, but there was a device that they used for prolapsed uterus. That was sort of like an early IUD. So, and there was a lot of pregnancy back then, but there were, ways for women. And then, you read about Native women having, doing it with nature. I mean, plants and herbs and all of that. But I don't know enough about that to do that. So we stick to sponges. And so far we've been pretty good. We haven't had any, well, we did get one pregnancy. Billy got pregnant, but.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, people practiced, as much as they could birth control back then. So yeah.
Right. Those are the only questions we have, but let me ask you this. If you had to say which protagonist you were most like, who would that be?
A little bit of me and about everybody. Kate snores, I snore like a longshoreman. Because my husband be like, you need to go in the other room. I got to go to work in the morning. Vivi gets lost a lot. Her and her mule,
Oh, right.
her and her mule, Michigan.
Yeah.
And before GPS, I could get to where, you know, like doing book club things and all of that. I could get to where I needed, but I couldn't get home for some reason. So now that I have Waze, my daughter's like, thank God. I don't have to send the bloodhounds out to find you. You know. So, what else? Sarita in Edgemini is a big football fan. I'm a big football fan. Well, I used to be. I'm not as much. You know, this football is, you know, it's a hot mess right now. But yeah, there's a little bit of me in a lot of my heroines, and most of the heroes, that tenderness and that silliness and that support is my late husband.
Oh.
Lost him in 03 to cancer. So way too soon. He's only 53 years old. So he's still sending me love scenes from heaven though. So we good. Yeah. So
to your husband. I know Kirsten had mentioned in one of the author's notes you had mentioned, because you had taken a few years off.
Yeah.
Writing, and then she said that you had come back. So yeah.
I took about 6 months off. That book was about 6 months late. I didn't take a few years. You know, you can't afford to take years off. But, Avon was very, very supportive. My readers got me through it too. I mean, I had a Yahoo groups back then. And because he was at home. He was diagnosed in August and he was gone in November. So I knew that no matter what I was dealing with during the day, I could go on that Yahoo site at night and they were there. I mean, they were the fuel. They, you know, kept me strong, let me cry, you know, all the things that you go through when you're watching someone you love go through such awfulness, you know. But he loved the readers. Oh my God, he called them his women.
Oh.
You know,
picture of him? Do we have a picture of your wedding or something, or some cute picture of the two of you?
We got married on the steps of City Hall, did a joint, and went in and got married.
Oh my God, you did.
Oh, that's the 70s. Yeah.
You're like, we're not doing anything fancy. Let's just do it real.
Yeah, you know, we went home. You know, we've been living together for like 8 years before let's get married today. Okay, yeah, you know.
That's beautiful.
I don't have any pictures right here. There's a couple on my I think there's a picture on my Twitter feed.
Okay, we'll go.
We'll check that.
Yeah. Yeah. He's my model for my guys.
So is he a combination of all the guys into one, or is there one in particular that really? Well,
you know, he's sort of in everybody. Even Garrett, who's my first cinnamon roll.
Oh yeah, Wild Rain.
Yeah,
so that's
yeah. He's because he's a bit of a nerd too. So
yeah, he's the newspaper. He's a journalist.
Yeah.
Newspaper. He's always reading.
Yeah. So he's in a little bit of all of them, and the ladies loved him, the readers loved, because he was coming to my pajama parties. He'd be the only guy there. Because he liked the attention mostly. He wasn't no fool. They loved him. Yeah. Plus he was cute, so there's like But anyway.
Oh, cute.
Well, I love that. I didn't know that was where your cinnamon roll came from, but that's so sweet. And it seems like that's what there was an article about I want to say in Bustle that was saying how the cinnamon roll is really popular right now.
Yeah, I'm probably not gonna write another one for a while. I like my swaggering heroes too. So.
But yours always there's always still a tenderness.
Yeah, even with the swagger, they still got the tenderness. But
Yeah.
I do a cinnamon roll, maybe another one, but not anytime soon, you know.
You build them well.
Yeah.
That's all I
So
can
what are you working
I can't wait for
on?
them to be on film. So I could
Yep.
do it with
We
Kat.
have 2 minutes left, but we want to know what you're working on.
Right now, I'm working on nothing.
Yeah. You're working on
Nothing. I'm trying to figure out who the third woman is going to be and the women who.
Women to Dare.
Yep, it's due to my editor in September.
Mm.
Still, going through different scenarios in my head as to who it's going to be because I don't know. Answer. She'll show up when she's ready.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it usually take you to write a?
I do 2 books a year, so 6 months.
2 books?
Sometimes I'm late, and my editor is very, very patient sometimes. So, but supposedly it should be 6 months each. I
So
love it.
someone says Anna's story.
Anna's story. Anna's a little kid.
Well, I guess they want to go forward. You know how you like in Forbidden?
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
Portia
And also Mariah. Mariah starts out as a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
But that's at the prologue. Yeah.
That's
Well, yeah. See, when they grow up, she said she loves.
Well, I got to do Magic first. I mean, I got to do Magic and Vivid first before I do any of the kids because she is owed a story and she's my first kid. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. I think that's true. So
what
maybe
what are you reading for fun or watching for fun these days?
What am I doing for fun?
Yeah, what are you reading or watching or binge watching?
I finished JD Robb's newest one. What's it called? I don't even remember. Something in Death, of course. I finished that. It was really good. I finished that a couple days ago. I'm getting ready to. I'm a fantasy reader. So I'm getting ready to start Blood Air by Alona Andrews. I did the first couple chapters last night. I planted probably 75 to 100 bulbs in November. So I'm waiting. We finally got 60-degree weather here.
What kind of flowers did you plant?
Everything springy. Tulips, daffodils, hyacinths.
Oh, beautiful.
I plant.
Your garden is going to be gorgeous.
I hope so.
In a couple weeks.
If I keep the damn rabbits from eating it, I'll be all right.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Even here in DC, the crocuses are coming up. The daffodils are coming up. Spring is strong.
We're still waiting on. Usually crocus comes first. So, but the tulips are coming up out of the ground, and
that's really
just little green things are coming up.
Yeah.
So I'm waiting on that. So that's going to be part of my joy.
Yeah.
COVID. Get my first shot on Friday, Thursday.
Good luck.
Yes. We'll keep you healthy and safe.
Keep myself safe. So.
Yes.
We love you, Miss Bev. Thank you for taking the time to be with us.
So welcome. Thank you for having me. This was great. Thanks for all the people out there. I see we got 67.
Yeah, we had 75. There were some people from the UK up at 2 in the morning to be here listening and talking to you.
Thank you so much for staying up.
Yeah, that's late. It's a long night.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing this time with us. And thank you for your work, for your books, for putting us out there, for, just being a mirror and a window that we really need.
Yeah. And just being excellent, just showing, how excellent Black people can be. You are just a shining star for.
And you guys keep doing what you're doing too, because what you're doing is cool.
We're trying.
All right.
Yep.
So,
thank you.
I'd love to come back sometime soon. So
yes, we will love to have you.
Then after
yes.
book. So
for sure.
Before we take off, please stay around for a minute because we want to talk to you and to say thank you properly.
Okay, I'll stay here. Okay.
All right. Thank you everyone for joining us. Check us out at theantiracistable.com. You know where to find Miss Jenkins, Beverly Jenkins. I think it is your website. Yep, BeverlyJenkins.net. So, and you can follow her on Twitter.
Okay, awesome. And my slides are not showing up, so I'm sorry, but everyone, good night. Thank you so much for being with us. And hopefully we'll see you around at the Anti-Racist Table.
Awesome.
Good night. All right,